Tonight, two teams meet following much different opening week performances. After a solid three quarters last week, the Edmonton Elks fumbled their way to an opening season loss, while the Montreal Alouettes, they went into Winnipeg and manhandled the Bombers. MBT looks to build off his early chemistry with his receiving core, while the defensive front seven want to show they are to be feared. Elks, Als, it's the first early test of the season, and it's all coming up on Friday Night Football. But first, this is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show with Iwanyk, Jay Milne, live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. Thanks to everyone for tuning in on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, or for those that are watching on YouTube. As I said, Matt and Jay, we are with you here an hour before kickoff here, and we will be here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge an hour before every kickoff of the Elks season. The Elks 0-1 this season as they are getting set to take on the Montreal Alouettes down at Commonwealth Stadium. Let's get into this game, and we'll start with the starting lineup for your Edmonton Elks. I did a good thing this week. I prepared. We're on screen with the depth chart here on YouTube. Last week it was just the depth chart. For those listening, it doesn't do much for you. But for on YouTube, you get a look at the depth chart while I read it to you. The starting quarterback for your Edmonton Elks, it is McLeod Bethel-Thompson. The men protecting him from left to right, Ivy, Foucault, Cordy, Jack Cardilla, and Stewart. The receiving core, Lewis Gittins Jr., Flowers, Mitchell, Mayala. Brown is the running back, Green is the fullback. It is a Tanner Green Day down at Commonwealth Stadium today, too, as they want to send you to Osheaga in Montreal to see the concert series out there that features Green Day. Get it? Tanner, Green Day.
I like the way you say Osheaga.
Osheaga?
Osheaga. I don't know what
I don't know if I'm right on it or not. It's a great music festival, like a big music festival. Rock and all of that.
Oh, it's a festival.
Yeah, it's a music festival. Okay. And Green Day is, I think, one of the headliners.
Say it again.
Osheaga?
Gosh. Good. That's great.
Defensively, the D-line, McKnight, Kemdiche, Curtis, and Brown. Linebacking core, Anderson, Morgan, O'Neill. And in the secondary, it is Gray, Bratton, Purifoy, Jackson, and Lewis. The change from last week, Byram is out as halfback. Purifoy, he's full of free safety, so Jackson coming in at halfback. We'll get to Purifoy in a second. BD's the kicker. Julian is the punter who had an unreal game last week. And Javon Leake is the kick returner and punt returner. With that, let's get to our injury report. Mr. Milne.
Well, the injury report, we've got offensive lineman Brett Boyko, who is still week to week with a head injury. So he has been listed as out. Josiah Shackle injured his ankle last week. Former Golden Bears, great. He is out. But there's some good news coming in. I guess we got to talk about Kyron Moore. Unfortunately, with a knee injury, Kyron Moore is lost for the entire season.
We talked about that last week, that it sounded like he was going to be out. They confirmed this week he's out.
Yeah, it sounded a little bit more serious than maybe a 6-game injury list, but he's officially listed as out for the season. But the Elks went and brought in 900-yard receiver from last year, Tevin Jones. So you might see him eventually get into the lineup or in maybe six-pack receiver sets. He's the extra guy that comes in. And then, as you mentioned in the intro, is Luchez Purifoy is back. He was out last week with an illness. He is back in the lineups. And for Edmonton to have him back is huge. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a game changer on that defensive side. The defense played pretty darn well last week. They managed, they bended, they didn't break necessarily all the time, but the fourth quarter.
In the fourth, they broke.
The fourth
in the
quarter,
fourth, the secondary broke.
Was a major meltdown and a mental breakdown. So we're going to get into that a little bit more, why I think that having Luchez Purifoy, one of your defensive captains, one of the leaders on the team in the locker room, back on the field is going to make a big impact tonight.
When we look at the Montreal Alouettes and the team that is coming to town, they are the defending Grey Cup champions. Cody Fajardo, the starting quarterback. Darnell Sankey is their starting middle linebacker. People in the West will remember him. He has spent a lot of time around in the West, but most notably with the Calgary Stampeders. Sean Lemon is still on the defensive line. That's just still a weird story, how he's re-signs with the Owls, retires. It comes out that he was betting on the CFL, suspended, and now he's still playing, and there's this whole appeal process. A weird situation that's going on there. Offensively, too, Tyson Philpott. This is a Canadian who really broke onto the scene late last season, was unreal. 141 yards, 2 touchdowns last week against the Bombers. And then there's 2 familiar faces. Walter Fletcher, the running back, he is a former Elk. But Nafis Lyon, I was a big Nafis Lyon fan. He was part of a trade to the Montreal Alouettes. He's still there, defensive back. He was traded with Thomas Costigan 2 years ago, I believe. I'm a big Nafis Lyon. Thomas Costigan, and then who did they bring in? I'm forgetting who they brought in. He's not an Elk anymore. So good moves by Chris Jones right there. I'm just going to leave it at that.
This guy.
You could always get in touch with us here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show, 780-218-9999. That is the Paris Jewelers inbox. Or you could jump into the Nasty Chat, which we've already had some messages in, including Jen Cool saying, stay safe, everyone, 100%, especially if you're out at Fort Sask area in that northeast, just out of Edmonton area. Last I saw, there was a tornado warning. So be safe, be careful, keep an eye out on everything that's going on. Some nasty weather going on. Hopefully everyone does stay safe, like Jen says. And then Tempo Yo TV. I will never stop saying Trey Ford should have been our starter this year. So I'm just going to throw that one out there. We are live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge just off of Fort Road, where every day is game day, as I mentioned already. Jay and I will be here pre- and post-game all season long. It's a great spot to come, enjoy the game. Come here, enjoy our pre-game show, jump on the LRT, head to the game. After that, come back here, enjoy our post-game show. And if you don't want to enjoy our post-game show, just play some of the games, play some of the tables. You had a good day last week. You did not have a good time with the horses. I just quickly want to mention that as we're starting the show, he's looking, the horse track screens are to our left, and he's looking at race. Jay, you love your grays.
Love the grays. Got to bet the grays.
You love your grays. And you found a horse, you go, you bet him, you come back here, you show me the ticket, it's right here. And I go look, and I go, oh, which race? You point to the screen, and I got number 4, and I was like, why number 4? And he's gray, and he was right on camera, and I was like, he's not gray. And
I think that the horse that was leading him out of the paddock was gray, so I got it confused. The 4 was not a gray, and the 4 did not win that race.
No, it looked okay at one point, but then I think second last. I don't think it finished last.
All in all, considering our betting record
had a fun time
at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, we hit, both of us hit our cool bet
props last
week. So
2-0.
We're up. We're feeling good. We're feeling good.
Century Casino, great daily specials all week. Today, it's Friday. I'm loving to learn all these because we knew Eric's daily specials for Monday and Thursday.
Yes.
Friday, $10.99 quesadilla. That's a great deal. Also, if you come for Elks games, game day special during the Elks games, cheese and jalapeno smoky, $14. The 6 o'clocker lager, I heard that's a pretty good beer.
It's not bad. It's pretty crushable.
$6 for cans, and game day draft just $5. But if you are actually headed to Commonwealth Stadium, also go check out stall. I don't even remember what stall it is. Stall 31. YouTube Trev, Zacticum. We have a stall at tailgate.
They are there.
We sent the youngins, and Jerry Haraxi from Spirit of Edmonton, he messaged me and he went, I'm looking after the boys. Don't worry. So we have people to help them out because we had no anchors for the tent or anything like that. So, we were not fully prepared, and we sent the 2 youngest guys, which is maybe not the smartest thing to do. But thankfully, Jerry Haraxi and Spirit of Edmonton are there to look after us. To come on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show today, we're going to hear from the starting quarterback, McLeod Bethel-Thompson. We will get to our cool bets props of the night, and as well, keys to an Elks victory, as well as a prediction of the night. I say a prediction because Jay's going to go with that prediction. Let's start before we get to our 3 storylines of the game. Let's look at our question of the night. Last week, the Elks, they had a great 3 quarters. Then things fell apart in that 4th quarter. But does those first 3 quarters last week give you optimism for the rest of this season? Yes or no, basically, Jay. I'll throw that your way. What you saw last week through 3 quarters, 45 minutes, does that give you hope for the rest of the season, or do you look more at the 4th quarter and the collapse, and that gives you cause for concern for this season?
It's a silly question.
Why?
How couldn't you have hope for the first 3 quarters of that game?
Because I saw what happened in the 4th quarter, and that gives me concern. It outweighs the hope I got from the 3 quarters is the concern from the 4 quarters.
Any human being that knows anything about sports at all would be very, very happy with the start of last week's game. Ultimately, we all know what happened. They collapsed in the 4th quarter. But yes, how could you not be optimistic? If they can put that kind of play together and not have the mental lapses and breakdowns that they did in the 4th quarter, this is a different Edmonton team and the fans will be reaping quite a few more wins and celebrating quite a few more wins than they did last year.
I'd like to throw to our Twitter poll and the results. 56% saying no, fourth quarter was concerning. 44% saying lots of good showing.
Well,
So just throwing that out there that there's a lot of people, because we've seen this team enough in the past to know that, yeah, there's good, but they'll always find a way.
Zactica must have wrote this question because it is absurd, because both answers are right.
But which one do you have? Are you more in? Which one's more? Is it the optimism from the three quarters that outweigh the negativity from that fourth quarter, or is it the negativity from the fourth quarter that outweighs the optimism from the third quarter?
I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
I will look at this. Well, for this team this year right now.
So, yes, obviously,
empty a little
Glue Guy's going to be saying, that it was an optimistic start. Pessimistic Maddie is going to be looking at the bad part of the game and focusing on that, all the while not focusing on today's game, which
I am
is,
focusing on
contrary
today's
to popular
game.
belief, is a very winnable game. Especially if weather becomes a little bit of a factor here.
I think that helps
the playing
Montreal
field.
more than it helps Edmonton.
No, it doesn't. It levels
Why?
the playing field. If you take a better team against Montreal's favored
Yes.
to win this game. When you bring weather in, that inches that line much closer to making it a more equal in terms of talent, because now everybody's playing under the same conditions. You can't run your full offense. You can't go through.
But wouldn't having a team that knows each other and went through the rigors last year and won a Grey Cup, wouldn't having that experience together help you, as opposed to a team that's coming together early in a season?
There's a Grey running in Delta Downs. But that wouldn't
and
matter.
It's coming its first right now, I think.
That wouldn't matter because they didn't play the Grey Cup. They didn't play the playoff games in the rain. Rain's a totally different factor. It just is.
But wouldn't the better team then come out on top if you're leveling the playing field? That's what I'm trying to. Wouldn't you then lean towards them because they just overall have the better players and the better talent, as opposed to a team that is just trying to come together early in a season with a brand new quarterback?
In my experience, whether it's a snow bowl or a monsoon, it levels the playing field off quite a bit.
I should look to see what Josh Clausen has for weather. We're in a severe thunderstorm watch for the city of Edmonton, because he said that there would be potentially some showers. Just looking at his Twitter, seeing if there's anything. A few more showers in parts of the city for the next 30 to 40 minutes, but the storm risk has ended for Edmonton, and most of this evening should be dry. Can't completely rule out a stray shower mid-evening, but according to Clausen, I guess, by a CTV meteorologist and rapper-turned-weatherman, friend of Edmonton Sports Talk, it looks like there won't be as much of a storm risk now for this game, which then weather won't be much of a factor.
And not, nobody wants to see a monsoon game or where that does happen and it affects it, or you see a wet ball, or it's just sloppy football. It doesn't really give the
Who does
athletes
that favor,
compete.
defense or offense, when there's rain?
When there's rain?
Yeah, if there's a big storm.
Defense.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing's easy to hold on to. So, whereas a running back or a receiver would have a ball tucked away that is secure and sound, now with the weather, with the wetness, that ball is a lot more easier to, punch out, drag out, as opposed to when it's dry. But that's good to hear that the weather won't be an issue. I'd rather see Edmonton come out on top, fair and square, which is I honestly think this is a game that, we've seen so much happening in the CFL. I mean, Ottawa, last night takes down, what was Winnipeg, who was last year's Grey Cup opponent for Montreal. So now Winnipeg's 0-2 out of the gate. No pundits would have thought that Winnipeg would be 0-2.
No.
Coming out 1-1 at worst.
And I really want to know what's going on with Winnipeg. Haven't been able to watch either of the two games. Yesterday we had a Stanley Cup final game to watch here in the city of Edmonton. Week before we were at the Elks dinner. So I'm looking forward to seeing, is this the end of the Bombers as that top dominant team, which would be great to see. Sorry to Huss and everyone out in Winnipeg. But I'd want to more level playing field and more teams involved. And
that's the
I'm
beauty
excited
of the CFL, isn't it? Where teams change and roll over rosters so fast and so often that you never know what you're going to get. And week by week, it's an exciting game.
It is.
Anything can happen week to week. So for those Elks fans that are down in the dumps, this is the worst season ever. We're gonna just relax.
Oh, yeah, you can
Take
still
a deep
relax,
breath.
but this is an important
Pause.
game. They
It's
need
a
this.
very important game.
They need to show up tonight.
I got news
they
for you.
Need
Every
to,
game is important.
Yeah, I get that, but this one, I think there's an added importance because they have to keep this one close. If they don't, I said it on the hangout,
Maddie's coming unglued.
there's a good chance I'm going to be very frustrated. I'm going to be very angry, and the staff at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge are going to go, "Why is this unhinged guy in our casino right now?"
Yeah, if you see a tall bourbon here on the side with Maddie at the end of the game, you know it hasn't gone well.
Let's get to our three storylines for this game as the Elks are getting set to take on the Owls down at Commonwealth Stadium. Still lots of time to come to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge and watch it with Jay and myself. For those heading down to the game, be sure to stay dry as best as you can. For those watching on TV, you got to watch Dustin Nilsson, Glenn Suter, his supposed good friend, and Tommy Gazzola giving you the calls. Our storyline for the number one for this game, it's that bounce back from the collapse of Week 1. As we've already mentioned, a solid 3 quarters, but then self-destruction in the fourth quarter, something we've seen a lot of from the Edmonton Elks over the last number of years. Last year, if you look at this team, they had 3 chances from the 1 to get in the end zone and potentially beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Didn't do it, and mentally they just didn't recover. The next week they lost. It all unraveled in Week 1. When you look at last week's game, 13:38 left in the fourth quarter, 21-8 lead. At 9:02, the Riders scored a touchdown pending an extra point. They were going to take the lead at 22-21. You had Boris Beatty miss a field goal from 48 yards with just under 5 minutes left in the stretch. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, a fumble and an interception. How does this team recover from such an emotional letdown at the end of Week 1?
Well, it comes down to being a professional athlete. When you have the highs of highs during a game, you have to have amnesia. Highs of the highs, lows of the lows. You have to be able to get that out of your mind, get that out of your mindset, and move forward. So as in an interview earlier this week, Eugene Lewis quoted that and said, we just need to have a case of amnesia. Forget about it. It's over. It's in the past. There's nothing that you can do about that. What you can do is get your ducks in a row this week, get your head on, stay focused, stay mentally focused, as those were the errors that led to that collapse. So I think it's quite simple. Forget about it, move on, and focus on the task at hand, which is tonight against Les Alouettes.
Okay, now how easy is it to do that? When you look at the secondary, I'll focus on them because they had a very poor fourth quarter last week.
Yep.
Now, Bynum is no longer at the halfback. Jackson's moving over there because Purefoy has taken over as free safety. But Kai Gray, second year in the Canadian Football League and with the Elks. Marcus Lewis, who got beat, I believe, from Sean Baines Jr. a number of times. He's second year with the Elks, third year in the Canadian Football League. Cordell Jackson, he's a rookie. And you've got Darius Bratton, who's in his second year. Do those guys have the experience to be able to just be professionals and move on?
Well,
how do you deal with that as a team to get those guys to forget about that and be, as Ted Lasso would say, the goldfish?
They didn't have their leader in the backfield, which is Luchez Purefoy, at the safety position. As a former safety, I'm going to say it. You are one of the captains of that defense. You have to be. You have to be the most vocal. You have to be the most confident in yourself because you are the leader of those men that are on in the defensive back position. So I said it before, I'll say it again, and I'm probably going to say it again. Having Luchez Purefoy back is a major, major addition and welcoming addition for the Elks secondary because you're not going to be able to slip mentally with him at the helm. So, I'd like to see a nice bounce-back game here from Lewis tonight. As everybody knows, he struggled late in that game. It wasn't on him, but those struggles were sure.
Well, when you just see Bain Jr. just going right past him.
It's frustrating.
It's hard to, it's not even Bain made a great catch in tough coverage. He's wide open, and that's tough. Now, okay, so you've been that safety. In that moment, let's say we go back, and let's say Purefoy is there in that moment. Is that a yelling at the guy? Is that a sitting down and talking to him gently? Is that just always going to just also have to be case by case depending on the player?
It's a what the bleep were you doing? Get your head on and then move on.
Okay.
It's about a 10-second conversation that is not that favorable to cornerback Lewis, but it has to happen, and then you move on. We good? We good. We're moving on. But it's just that's what a leader does. Hey, get your head on. What are we doing here? We're in cover 3. You let a guy run right back you and past you in your zone. Just doesn't it shouldn't happen. So, yeah, I think it's a big thing having him back. He's a bigger part of that defense than I wouldn't say people. I think fans know and appreciate how much he means to that defense.
But it's also only his second year.
That's right.
With this club, and he made, like last year he was being a vocal leader right off the bat. But when you lose guys like Ed Gainey, you lose guys like Jake Serezna. You need veterans, somebody else to step up, and he naturally has just filled that void. So not having him for week 1 was a big loss.
Yeah, and
it started out with an illness, just then wasn't available for that game. Having him back, we'll see what happens. But I'm just intrigued with that. I don't want to call it full inexperience, but the rawness, maybe, if you will, of that secondary, and can they bounce back? Because that's something they couldn't do last year.
Well,
and that's why I look at tonight's game as very important too, because if they don't bounce back from this, and we see a team like last year where they're rattled by it still a week later, I don't have hope that they'll figure it out this season again as well. So that's where I'm going to be very intrigued. And if I'm the Montreal Alouettes, I see number 8 Lewis. I'm telling Fajardo, that's a guy you're throwing to early. You're testing him early.
Yeah, and I that's a great point, Matt. The question is, will they bounce back and recover from that? I certainly hope so, because if they can't and don't, you're right. This is going to be a snowball tumbling down a hill, just gathering speed and size. So it's going to be interesting to watch tonight for sure.
Does it surprise you there's not a lot, like there's just a couple backups in the safety position?
They're also they're Swiss Army knives as well. I guarantee you could use any of those two. Maybe not,
because Hutter a couple years ago was a free safety.
Yeah, but maybe Haggerty you could probably use at the halfback spot. Not necessarily.
How big of an adjustment is it to go from halfback to free safety or cornerback and all that?
Halfback to free safety to halfback, not so much. Free safety to cornerback, black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, your cornerback position is totally different. But that being said, at this level of your career, you're in the CFL, you've been playing professional football, you've played big time college football. You should be able to move around the field pretty seamlessly.
This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne, live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on YouTube, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in, iHeartRadio. We're late joining the audio streams. I clicked it, but I guess I didn't click it hard enough because we weren't on. So thanks to Rip City Step for telling us we got on.
I forgot to do something too.
What did you forget to do?
I was supposed to go like this, a tip of my hat to that's my secret code to say hi to my daughters at home. So
I don't have a hat, but also Alex, our server, is walking by. She deserves a round of clicks.
Round of clicks. She's the best. She's
the best. What was the reason, though?
She gave us her prediction.
Oh, that's right.
We'll get to it.
Well, we're going to add that, so we'll have 2 predictions on the show today. See, I don't even have to give one.
You're not.
Alex has got one. But round of clicks for Alex, who was great last week. And
I showed up and I asked for a tee. She brought me the full compliment.
Yeah, you got everything.
Look at this spread.
This spread.
What, like the hot water pot? I mean, I feel like
got the honey and multiple honey too.
Here.
Multiple honeys too.
Getting real good treatment.
Let's get to the second storyline of today's game, and that's when the Edmonton Elks are on offense, taking on this Montreal defense. Last year, the Montreal defense, they were a top defense in the Canadian Football League. They were able to make a lot of turnovers. They caused a lot of havoc. They were one of the reasons that the Owls were able to be a dominant team against everyone in the Canadian Football League outside of Toronto, BC, and Winnipeg through the regular season, but also get on that hot streak at the end of the year when it mattered most and go on and win a Grey Cup. Last week against the Bombers, 12 points allowed, 284 yards allowed, 2 sacks, 3 turnovers. They do have some injuries out in their defensive core, led by Stubblefield.
Yeah.
They've lost Terrell Richards as well, linebacker, and Wesley Sutton already also defensive back. So they go through Winnipeg with the win, but not unscathed. As for the Edmonton Elks, a pretty good offensive performance, I think, for the most part last week. McLeod Bethel-Thompson had a bunch of receivers. Dylan Mitchell looked really good last week. Curly's Gittins and MBT, that connection was still Eugene Lewis with 85 yards.
Mayala had a good game.
2 touchdowns. 6 2-and-outs. 3 drives that also ended in turnovers. The 4th offensive yards last week in the Canadian Football League, but 7th when it comes to points scored out of 8. What are you looking for with this Elks offense as they go up against this, what should be very tough Montreal defense?
Well, you just alluded to it. One of their top defensive backs in Reggie Stubblefield is out for the season, unfortunately with a knee injury. So that's a tough one for the Alouettes. But in response, like we had talked about Lewis on the corner and Fajardo taking shots there. I'd like to see the Elks take some shots. We did not see one deep ball last game, not one, not even an attempt. So I'm very confident, and maybe you can find it on the CoolBet site, that you will see at least one, hopefully 2 or 3 deep shots where they try and push the field vertically. Also last week, 10 rushes. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing here? 10 rushes? This is
27 yards.
I mean, but you have to give the ball to Brown and allow him to push those seams, move that offensive line, and keep the Alouettes defense honest. You can't allow them with 10 rushes. That defense is pinning their earbacks and coming for MBT all day. So they're going to have to use the running game a lot more effectively and take care of the ball. Take care of the ball on offense. In the last 6 games, okay, the Alouettes are plus 18 in the turnover ratio. They're coming for the ball. The Elks gave it up 3 times last week. So if they can win the turnover battle, I mean, that's a little bit later, we'll get into that, but as far as points, keys to the game, so to speak. But if they can control the ball, hold on to the ball, and limit their turnovers, I think those are 3 things for that offense. But it starts, I think, with getting that run game going and just pound it. You're not always going to be successful, but Brown will break one for 30, 40 yards. Mm-hmm. And then push the ball vertically down the field with that big arm of MBT.
I just always struggle with the always trying to run the ball because of the 2 downs. And if this, I just can see this game where the Elks are down early. And they won't have that ability then to start running the ball and feeding Kevin Brown. Last week, a different story. They had the lead for the majority of it. And that's when you want to be running the ball. But if this team gets down like 10-0 and you haven't established the run, can you keep going to the run? Can you keep handing it off to Kevin Brown?
You have to commit to it and hope your defense can keep points off the board, like you say. But, yeah, it is tough when you get down early because you need to – well, it depends. I mean, there's still 4 quarters in a game. So if you're down early, you can still commit to your game plan. And I guarantee you Jarius Jackson has more running plays and a more commitment to that run game tonight because last week it was not even existent.
Well, and I just hope he opens up the playbook a bit more. I hope that what we saw last week was a growing period of the offensive playbook and not going out with everything early because what I saw last week was very much a Steve McAdoo offense. It was very bland, very reserved, not taking those shots. And
I agree.
We know what happened with Steve McAdoo in this team, and we know what people felt about Steve McAdoo in this team. And we didn't see that in the second half of the season last year with Jarius Jackson. And look, I love Trey Ford, and there's a turnaround. I could point to Trey Ford, but there's also you could point to Jarius Jackson also came at the exact same time as offensive coordinator. Yeah. And we saw them do some different things offensively. Last week, we didn't see any of that. It was just way too reserved, way too conservative. And so I'm hoping maybe that was just an early season getting MBT used to the basics of this offense and slowly bringing out the other plays. As opposed to, I really hope that that's not the offense that Jarius Jackson is kind of proceeding with because fans aren't going to like that one.
Stretch the field.
Well, and you have receivers like Eugene Lewis is one of those receivers. Sometimes you just have to throw it up there. And he's going to jump over whatever defensive back he's going with and somehow catch the ball. And we're going to sit there and go, how the hell did Eugene Lewis do this? How did he make that catch? And sometimes you just have to put it in the vicinity of Eugene Lewis, and he's going to come down with it. So give him that shot. And if you get one of those in, now all of a sudden the defensive backs have to play back.
Yeah.
And it just opens up the shorter passes or the running game and just all of that. So I want to see a little more from the offense in terms of creativity.
Creativity is a good way to put it.
Now, here's the one thing I would say about Kevin Brown. Does it have to be rushes or could it be touches?
No, touches.
Could it be, just
get him on a swing pass. Get him on a screen. Get him in the flats.
That's what I don't understand is that, him too. He's just a little itty-bitty guy. When he gets the ball, he's hard to take down.
Yeah, if
and
it's
you
jammed
just get
up,
him the ball.
right? If it's jammed up with the offensive line and their front three,
Was it one screen last week or something?
they tried one and it
And
went
that was
for a loss.
they did the one. Was it a screen or was it a very short pass? Like dump. I think it was that screen. It was like second and long.
Yeah, and any
you're
defense
just giving up
coordinator
the yards.
knows that a screen is probably likely to come on a second and long, so that's a tough one.
Just get Kevin Brown the ball.
Yeah.
He's a good playmaker.
No,
Get
I
him
agree.
the ball in some way, and even if it's not running, like I wouldn't be upset if I saw afterwards 10 rushes from Kevin Brown at the end of the day. But if you're adding in 8 catches or 5 catches or something, then it's okay. You mixed in the running back. That's what you need to do.
Man,
So,
I don't know what's in your cup, but you are like clairvoyant tonight. I don't know. I've never agreed with you so much.
it's because I wrote things down this week.
I did too.
I
made
need my
notes,
sheets. I'm
dog.
a sheets guy. I hate doing it on computer. Tommy does all of his pre-game stuff on computers, and I did it a little bit last week. We didn't have all of our equipment.
Yeah.
We didn't have headsets. This week I'm a little more comfortable.
Okay.
And it was like a year removed from doing this show, so now I feel comfortable.
Yeah, you're
again.
hitting all the notes, baby.
I'm
Keep it
feeling
going.
comfortable again. Third storyline of today's game. Penalties, discipline. Wasn't good for the Edmonton Elks last week. They end up with 12 penalties. The next closest in the Canadian Football League in Week 1 was 7 penalties. Kemdiche with the headbutt. He got fined this week for that one. How easy is it to correct discipline? Is that an easy fix?
Not really. Like it. Unfortunately, that's the horses you came with. I mean, if guys are going to be taking, I mean, you could call a holding play on every play of any football game, but these were undisciplined one. The unnecessary roughness calls, pass interference. I mean, there was one pass interference that was just a blatant mistake on that interception. That was not pass interference. The defensive back has as much right to the football as the wide receiver. That was bad. But you still have the holdings that are knocking you back, and those are just drive killers. So if you can limit that, cut that number in half, I mean, any coach would like to see under 5 penalties. That would be, if you're running at that clip, you're very, very, you got it together as a team. But they just can't do that. You're killing yourself.
Well, last week in their penalties, 3 roughness penalties, 4 technical penalties.
Yeah, that's mental.
Like the preventable ones they have at 4. I don't know what they list as preventable for those ones. Objectionable conduct, offside, procedure, time count, too many men. So they also had 4 of those. I could live with technical ones. I could live with a pass interference call. I could live with a holding call occasionally, as long as it's not every single game 3 or 4 of them. You're just trying to play football at that point.
You're going to have them.
You're
going to have them.
It's the roughness. It's the stupid ones. It's the ones that extend a drive. It's the ones that, what's the point? I'll just flip even to that. It's like the Ryder player last week that punched the Edmonton Elk. Like, how does that help your team? How is that going to help your team? You might just hurt your hand in there, and in the end, you're going to get caught and you're going to get kicked out. But it doesn't do anything. The play's over. It's not impacting the play in any way. It's those type of plays those are the ones that frustrate me. I can handle a pass interference occasionally. It's just the roughness ones and all of that. Suck it up. I know sometimes it's a very physical game and you just want to take that extra shot, but you got to do what's best for the team.
Well, it's
sometimes.
one of these wait and see things because it's such an early. Was that a one-off, or is this the tempo and is this the character of this Edmonton team? Now, head coach Chris Jones could have went into meetings earlier this week and said, look at this stupid play. Look at this penalty. What are we doing? And put together a collaboration of these penalties that were totally unacceptable and highlight that in front of your players and their peers. That sometimes can have a bit of a kick in the butt kind of thing to say, guys, we got to stop this and control the penalties that we're taking. Because that, like I say, it kills your offensive drives and it extends their defensive drives. Took away a turnover took away a turnover and a touchdown. Like, boom, like that. So, I mean,
that's not
big
clicks
time.
snap.
That's not
a
round
click
of clicks.
snap.
That's not excitement.
No.
That's like, boom, you're gone.
Over 100 yards of penalties, too. Like, you almost allow the Riders to just move the entire length of a CFL football field. You just can't do that. And, the Riders aren't the Montreal Alouettes. As you go against the Montreal Alouettes, who we now think is one of the top teams in the Canadian Football League, you can't give them free yards.
No.
You just can't do that because they're going to beat you on that, and you just make life difficult for yourself. So that, to me, is the other thing to watch is that the discipline. And, the one thing I'll say about Chris Jones, he's also not afraid to, we've seen it over the years, make changes to his lineup.
Yeah.
And pull people, between games. I'll be intrigued is this guy, is Chris Jones and Jason Shivers and Jarris Jackson, all of them together, if they see those penalties, are they willing to sit a guy at some point? Because you don't want this to be a trend.
Yeah.
You don't want this to be a trend. That's the thing is, week one, it's always a weird thing in week one, too, because it's so hard to gauge a lot of things. Is the other team just, like, last week I'll use Montreal and Winnipeg. Is Winnipeg not good? Like, that's what I was feeling after the game. Is Montreal actually good? Is it a combination of both? Are the Riders a good football team? Was it just they just catch the Elks? I don't think Hamilton or Calgary are that good, but they ended up playing each other. So is Calgary, like, how's Calgary going to do against BC? Like, you need a couple of weeks to then start gauging these teams and figuring things out. So is that just a one-off for the Elks? Was it just a game that they got caught with some penalty? That happens. Or is this going to be a theme for this team going into this season? And that's why the early part of the season is so fun, because there's so many questions that there really is. The only way to get it answered is to get to week 4 or 5 and have a number of games that we can look on and go, okay, this is a trend or this isn't. There's no other way to know.
Some would refer to it as a sample size.
Yes. What's a good sample size for you for football?
Football?
Because hockey, they say
6 games.
It's 12, 15 to 20 games for a team.
6 games. Give me 6 games, and you'll see tendencies. You'll see.
So a third of the season.
You'll know who your team is.
Okay.
Like
that seems long.
It is, but you'll definitely know who you got, rather than guessing or taking assumptions. We don't like assumptions, right?
You know what they say about assumptions?
I do.
What did they say?
They make an ass out of you and me.
There you go. You could jump into the nasty chat, or you can jump into the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. We've got some Oilers conversation going on in the nasty chat. Have fun, you guys. We're not going to comment on those ones, except I will tell you the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show tomorrow, 4:30 with Tom Gazzola, YTT, and Matt Caston will get you set for Game 4 as the Oilers look to stave off elimination. Donnie M., how do I get a hold of my Elks guys tonight? Amazing. I don't know what that means.
Come and see us.
You can come see us at Century Casino Sports Bar.
You can get a hold of Maddie really easy.
Just off of Fort Road. Or if you're heading down to Commonwealth Stadium, a tailgate spot number 31, YTT, Zach Tecum are there, right next to the Spirit of Edmonton spot, Jerry Haraxi. So go check them out. Go check out the Friends of EST. We've got the Turf District. We've got the Elks Herd. They're out there, as well as Andrew and Jason, some nasties in that tailgate. So there's a lot going on in that tailgate party. So if you're heading there, be sure to check out stall number 31. Anything else quickly to jump to in the nasty? Penner's Pancakes, they go 0-4, and Jones is deaf gone. Save that for the end of this game. If they go 0-2 tonight, there's a chance I will have more to say on that one. But they might be 1-1, and so I'm not ready to say anything just yet. I'm not ready to go fully there.
Let's not jump to conclusions, anyone.
No, so I can't jump to conclusions, but I'm supposed to make predictions all the time.
Well, you're just a giant wuss and won't make any predictions. That's just you.
I think you guys can maybe read between the lines if I'm talking the way I've been talking with this team and on the hangout today, and try to maybe predict or guess what my prediction actually is.
Oh, I know what your prediction would be. Elks loss every
I'm not saying.
game.
I'm not saying. Well, I was 1-3 with my CFL picks last week between us and W Sports. Although you and I think, are the only two that took Winnipeg to cover last night.
Yeah.
Everyone else took Ottawa to cover, so we both took another L.
Took an L.
That's not good.
Brutal.
That's not good. Let's take a look quickly at the Montreal Alouettes. What do you make of this team? Because does last week change your opinion of the Owls at all? And the reason I asked that is I will start with my thoughts on that, in that going into this season, I had Winnipeg, BC, I had them as the top 2. I didn't know what to make of Montreal. I didn't know if last year was just they got hot at the right time, and we've seen that in the Canadian Football League, and they're not in that level of Winnipeg and BC. Again, last year they beat every team that wasn't named Winnipeg, BC, and Toronto in the regular season. Lost every game to those guys, but when it mattered most, they got those victories. Or are they a team that actually was just getting better and are going to be a good football team this year? I saw what happened in Winnipeg last week, and I went, oh, boy, this is actually a good football team. This is a team to actually fear, and the Elks are going to be in tough coming into this week. That was my feeling. What were your feelings coming into the season? And did last week, what the Owls did to the Bombers, change your feeling on this team?
there might have been the thought or opinion that maybe last year the Alouettes caught lightning in a bottle come playoff time and rode that to the Grey Cup victory. But judging by their week 1 start, now we don't know who Winnipeg is. So, you can't, like we've said a couple times, it's so early right now to make, educated guesses, and that would be what we'd be doing with the Owls. But credit's due where it's due. They are the defending Grey Cup champions. You have to acknowledge that and respect that, and until further notice, they are. So I think this is a good team. That Philpott and Fajardo connection is scary because that Philpott is one heck of a player, and he's a ratio breaker because he's a Canadian. So if your best, wide receiver is a Canadian, you're in a good situation.
I got to take a look at Tyson Philpott last year because he didn't start off strong. And he just as the Owls started to pick it up, he started to pick it up last year. Here's his receiving yards last year per game. Numbers aren't always the best, just throwing that out there, but bear with me. 0, 26 yards, 16, 9, 36, 32, 36. That's all the way into September. Then he had 105 for a touchdown, 87, 41 and a touchdown, 90 and a touchdown, 31, 38 and a touchdown. End of the season, 16 and a touchdown. He picked it up in that second half of the season, and that's when the Owls turned it on. And you never know always what to make out of those the Canadian receivers and stuff like that, especially the guys from the Dinos. What do those guys do?
He was a UBC. He was a Thunderbird.
Were they Thunderbirds? I thought they were Dinos.
Thunderbirds.
Oh, then it's just a Blake Dill connection.
Yeah.
I just took a shot at the Dinos for no reason, though.
Hey, that's okay.
I'm fine with that one.
Screw the Dinos.
But he just is a top receiver, and he's just a legit threat. And I don't know, when Cody Fajardo, he likes to throw the ball downfield. That's the other thing.
Fajardo. Look, that's great. It's crazy what happens.
It's not always great, though. I will say this about Cody Fajardo, because I've watched a lot of Riders games over the years because of Lucas and Eric. They're big Riders fans. And the one thing that Cody Fajardo will do, and maybe it was a Jason Moss thing when it's OC in Saskatchewan too, is they would just throw it downfield at the weirdest times. 2nd and 3, and they're just lobbing one downfield. Fajardo didn't exactly have the accuracy with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, that it'd fall incomplete and they're having to punt as opposed to just getting up the first down. But when you have a guy like Tyson Philpott who's going to go make the catches, that's a scary little connection that you have right there. So I love that. Walter Fletcher's a guy that I'm going to be very intrigued to watch tonight. He's a guy that was with the Edmonton Elks. They let him go, and I think it was last season. He talked about he wanted to rush on the Elks. He wanted to be a leading rusher at Commonwealth Stadium against the Elks because they let him go. And that former team mentality, that could sometimes get you going. He wasn't able to do that last year. But Walter Fletcher's a guy that concerns me. I get what you're saying about maybe Winnipeg's. We still don't know because what happened to Ottawa. But with how much Montreal manhandled the Bombers and in Winnipeg. That's the other part to that. They went to Princess Auto Field, and they dominated out there. That they, to me, are a legit top team in the Canadian Football League. And that's why today is a very tough test. And it's hard for me to think that the Elks are close going into this one right off the bat.
Well, and that was a giant middle finger to the league, I think, was that coming out party for the Alouettes in week 1, defending Grey Cup champions, taking on the opposing team from last year's Grey Cup in their barn.
It had to be on the road.
Yeah, I know. It's the Grand Prix and all that stuff, or the F1.
Could have they taken on someone else?
Yeah, like make a difference there. Like figure it out. But
Could they come to Edmonton that week?
I don't know.
Like,
but to play the team that you played against in the Grey Cup, truly CFL. And yes, Scepter 73, #Glue Crew, Dinos suck. Yeah, Scepter, I'm with you, dog.
The other thing, I full credit, I said it after the Grey Cup, Jason Moss has proven himself as a solid head coach. And he would have never done that if he was in Edmonton still. He needed to learn from his firing in Edmonton, and he needed to learn from his being OC in Saskatchewan. He learned from those mistakes. And he even admitted that himself, that he has grown from those situations. And it's just nice to see a former Eskimo go out and do well. And a guy that still makes the city home.
Yes.
Well, the area.
Yeah.
Area home. Neighbor, right?
Yeah, down the road. Yeah.
No big deal.
You have a guy in Jason Moss that is an offensive guru.
Yes.
That is a passionate man towards football coming in, and that's where this is exciting. I mean, you have a head coach that's offensively minded. You have a head coach on the Elks side that is obviously defensively minded. So this should be a real battle test tonight and be interesting to see. I'm excited. And I must say, I've never been so excited for Edmonton football as I have been recently. I guess part of it is due to you, but most of it is I really honestly believe that this is a bit of a turning point for this team. I think they're on the up and up, and the years of darkness, as an Oilers term, the decade of darkness. I really honestly think that those are coming to an end. So yeah, this is a pivotal game tonight.
We will hear from the Elks quarterback, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, in a few minutes here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Iwanyk and Jay Milne. Kickoff coming up down at Commonwealth Stadium just after 7 o'clock. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show live at Edmonton Sports Talk, Tune, and iHeartRadio, as well as those watching on YouTube. And we're live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, just off of Fort Road, where you can come watch the game with Jay and I. We're here pre- and post-game for the entire season. They do got the game day specials, which have started as of 6 o'clock. It's an hour before the game, hour after the game. The cheese and jalapeno smoky for only $14. 6 o'clock or lager, $6 in cans, as well as the game day draft, $5. So come down and join us. And they've got these wall of TVs here. So I'm sure the Celtics game will be on as they look to knock off the Mavs. What are you pointing at?
Are we up?
What do you mean if we're up?
I don't know. There's nothing on there.
That's the preview screen. That's the live screen.
God, fine.
That's the Jay's learning the new stuff
the
here.
cheese and jalapeno
This is live.
smoky too. Just
It
for
sounds
the record,
delicious.
It comes with waffle fries. Hello.
Grilled smoky topped with queso, in-house pickled jalapenos, and crispy onion. Served with waffle fries. I will actually be getting that as soon as we're done on the show.
I've never seen a jalapeno smoky that I haven't liked.
I haven't seen a smoky generally. I haven't liked. Also, I haven't seen food here at Century Casino I haven't liked.
Yeah, it's good.
Everything is great.
It's good.
We go
You know
back
what
to
I'm
the
gonna-
Thursdays smoked Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to try the wings because I love chicken wings. So if I can get into a good groove with chicken wings, maybe add a little fourth quarter cheese and jalapeno smoked dog.
Let's get to our cool bet props of the game. We will also throw out the EST game day parlay that we threw up on this. All thanks to our wonderful partners at CoolBet. We went 2-0 last week. You had McLeod Bethel-Thompson over 1.5 touchdown passing. I Curly's Gittins Jr. over 4.5 receptions. What are you looking at for today for your prop?
Well, I'm just going to double check this line again because I don't know if it would have changed again. No,
Which one?
47. I like the over. I think this is going to be an offensive game. I think there's going to be points put on the board. I had made a prediction earlier on the Hangout that this would be somewhere along the 38-34 Elks, obviously. So I'm smashing the over 47.
Well, Kayla, she had 27-24, so that's 51. And yes, I used the
that's over.
calculator to double-check that.
I think that's low. I mean, any
Well,
CFL
still, that's still
game,
an over.
Any
Well, okay,
CFL
but
game
now,
should be in the 50s.
well,
No?
well, last week there wasn't a lot of points. It
That
still
would've
was
been
the
50,
over.
yeah.
It still would have been the
Still would've
over,
been the
but
over.
it's late touchdown.
And the EST parlay. Why don't you talk about that?
Well, I will
That
first
is
get
fresh.
to, well, the EST parlay, my prop of the game, it's now thrown into this. When they have Eugene Lewis over 70.5 receiving yards. Last week, 85. This is his former club, too.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
And I'm sure he's a little pissed that he saw his former club go win a Grey Cup, and he wasn't part of it.
A little?
So I'm expecting Eugene Lewis to have a big game. So over 70.5 receiving yards. But then we built the EST parlay, and by we, I mean me. I used Jay. I used something he said on the Hangouts.
He used me.
And I use that for the exclusive. You go to CoolBet, you got a couple more minutes. Click on exclusives. The Edmonton Sports Talk parlay. It is up at plus 365. You said you could see MBT throwing, I think, 3 touchdowns. on the
3
Hangout today?
touchdowns, yeah.
We got MBT 2+ passing touchdowns. We got Eugene Lewis over 70 receiving yards. And we got the Edmonton Elks just covering the 4.5. So even if they don't beat the Montreal Alouettes, as long as they keep it within 4 points, this bad boy will then hit at plus 365. That is exclusively at CoolBet. They give us a little boosting on that. And every Elks game day now for the rest of the season, we will try to get an EST parlay. We did it all year for the Oilers. I got to see who's going to do it. Dusty or I are going to do it for the Oilers tomorrow. But we're going to now do it for the Elks too. And let's try to make some money while we're watching the Edmonton Elks play.
Drum something up, made by a couple guys that are following the team, following their activity on a week-to-week basis, so we can provide you the opportunity to turn $10 into $37.50.
And and I will throw this out to you. If you ever have a thought of one, shoot them my way. as a during the week. And I will consider it for the parlay because Big Uke was big with helped me at times with the parlays and stuff. So I'm always looking. We're always looking to crowdsource because we want to build this and win together.
Yeah, Mr. Lee needs.
That's what we're trying. Well, we're trying to build this together.
It's community.
Again, no predictions with Mr. Lee. No predictions. VR Montenegro. Waffle might be the pinnacle of fry technology. Rip City Step, waffle fries, that's a win.
Oh, it's a huge win. I mean, just think of the surface area for the amount of ketchup or mayonnaise or whatever your sauce of choice is. I mean, even throwing a little hot sauce on it. Golly.
I've never tried it with waffle fries, but vinegar with fries is elite. It's elite.
Well, apple cider vinegar. Let's be clear.
Oh, I was going to go malt.
Or sorry, malt. I meant malt. You're
okay.
Right. I meant malt. I meant malt.
I could live with white. I could live with white. Depending on the fry, depending on which fry it is.
Tradition, like I mean,
but
if you're
malt
getting like,
is the way to go.
Like steak fries, like the thicker fry.
Do you think waffle fries would work with vinegar?
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it.
We're gonna find out.
Have to try
we
that
will
tonight.
report to you.
Coming up here momentarily on the Green and Gold kickoff shows, we're getting set for Elks and Owls. We'll get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory. We also got 2 predictions for today's game. Yes, there's 2 of us here, and we have got 2 predictions for you. Didn't say
not
2
from him.
But right now, let's hear from the starting quarterback of your Edmonton Elks. He spoke to the media earlier this week. That is McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Okay. You like that answer, by the way?
Great answer. Great answer. I mean, we've got to shift the and this is a new season. There's two truths. Every truth has two sides to it, right? So this is also a new season. So we have no idea what this season's going to look like.
Yeah.
We are not last year's team. That's for darn sure. So couldn't ask for a better challenge this week. We're excited to get going.
Yeah, and this might be a lightning rod question or extension of your answer for some people listening to this. What happened on Saturday has nothing to do with the last 3 years.
Absolutely. It's a wholly entirely new season, and if you're not in the present, that's when it can drag you down. So if you let losses behind you drag you and make you lose twice, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
So we can't drag that game into this week. That's already flushed. That's out of our system, and we couldn't ask for a better opponent to come in here and a better challenge.
There's training camp. You get your reps there. You get whatever reps you can get out of the 2 preseason games, and then you come into the regular season. How much time is there in the regular season early to still shore up your game and kind of get everyone on the same page in the gelling process?
Well, there's always time. It's the CFL. There's always time, but we don't want to put ourselves in that situation, right? We know what we can be. We see it. It's on film, And speaking for myself personally, I watched film. I was really disappointed with about 3 to 4 plays, And so if I can shore up those 3 to 4 plays, I feel like I could play a complete game and we can't lose, So that's my focus personally. Our focus collectively is just to not share those, right? To move those mistakes around. And to play clean football. I think when we play clean football, we're as scary as anybody. So it's just about doing it down in and down out.
And in saying that, you had over 300 yards passing.
Yeah.
You're almost 80% completion rate, but it could have been so much more.
Yeah. I mean, that's my standard, though.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with that game. Like I said, 3 to 4 plays where I was disappointed. So that's not my standard. But I've never held myself to anyone else's standards. I never listened to any outside noise. I have a really high expectation for myself, and I'm always chasing that. So that comes from internally, and that comes from a deep, deep, deep desire and a deep burning to be the best I possibly can.
Yeah.
So no one can hold me to a higher standard than I do myself.
You've been part of championship teams, winning teams. The process of getting to that championship level. It's only week 2. But tell me what can happen in week 2 to help in that process.
Well, I think for us team right now, it's a sense of urgency, right? I think that you didn't feel that sense of urgency necessarily on Saturday to close out that game, right? We had them on the ropes, 28-8, 21-8 in the 4th, and that's when you step on someone's neck. That's when you know that it's a professional football team and there are grown men on the other side and they will fight to the end.
Yeah.
And so it's urgency. I think so. We have to build pillars or characteristics that make us who we are, and so a sense of urgency needs to be this week. Now we need to fix the mistakes we made last week and move forward and play the best possible game we can.
So instead of backing off when you have the opponent on the ropes, give them another blow.
Exactly. You got to keep swinging. It's the CFL. You saw the game last night. You saw our game. The game before. It's never over. So that's the beauty of the CFL. That's why it's a wonderful game. Awesome.
That's it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, man.
Good one.
I should have edited that a little bit better. I didn't edit that, so. We got that. Usually tighten that up there.
You're forgiven.
Iwanyk, Jay Milne, live with you on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. That was McLeod Bethel-Thompson with the media earlier this week. Do want to mention a quick nasty chat message before we get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory. Penner's Pancake EST with a big shout-out on Stoff's show today as well with some thumbs up. Thank you, Stoff. Appreciate the shout-out. Oil Stream was wild today. Tommy was at the media center at Rogers for Stanley Cup, and all of a sudden Jack Michaels comes on screen. And Jack's there and is talking, and then all of a sudden Stoff came on.
Yes.
And then Stoff came on again. And then who did we have? We had Gene Principe come on.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we had Noodles stop by.
What?
And then we had Gazdick stop by. I lost it when Stoff, like Jack was there, and I was like so pumped. Jack Michaels is here. Like we have never had Jack on EST.
Wow.
In Vegas, he ditched, like he turned away from us. And then all of a sudden Stoff came on. And it always happens when Dusty's not there. Dusty even texts, he's like, how is this happening? Like whenever he's not there, good, like these crazy things happen.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
Today it was like, I'm sure if we had a staff meeting and no one was listening to Oil Stream, and me and Tommy's like, yeah, you would have never guessed who was on the Oil Stream today. And they listed all those guys. You all think we were just making it up. But no, it was a wild Oil Stream. Don't go to the audio stream. This is not one to go listen to the podcast of the Oil Stream. This is go to YouTube, Edmonton Sports Talk channel, click the Oil Stream from today and watch it because it was great. It was wonderful, and Stoff giving us a shout-out, so thank you to Stoff. Let's get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory. If they want to be 1-1 after tonight, Jay, what's their key and road to success?
Well, I've got 4 points to highlight. The number one key to a victory is do your job. Focus on the task at hand, play by play. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't lose yourself mentally. Stay focused and do your job. This mostly pertains to the defensive side of the ball, but offensively as well. I mean, if Edmonton can do that tonight, I think they have a really serious, legitimate chance of winning this game. Be mentally sound. That's part of do your job. Limit the penalties. We talked about it earlier. But if you are handing the ball over and handing 10 yards, 15 yards, 5 yards, 15 yards to the Alouettes, that's not a plan to win.
No bueno, as they would say.
No bueno. And if they can win the turnover battle, that goes a long way in winning this game. But it's going to be a tough task because, as I alluded to earlier, in the last 6 games, including the first one this year and the last 5 games of last year, Montreal is plus 18 in the turnover ratio, which is astonishingly high. So they are coming for the ball, they want to take the ball, and they hold on to the ball. So if Edmonton can somehow win that tonight and win the turnover battle, which we will be watching closely because that's a big part of this game, I think that's a major key to victory.
Well, and that could be an early story to the start of the season for this team because, I don't ever read too much into preseason, but their loss to the Riders when they played a lot of their starters, they turned over the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And last week, what ultimately did start the process of the snowball effect that killed them?
Yeah.
Javon Leake fumbled.
Or was it Kevin Brown?
It was. I looked it up. And in the Elks, the CFL still has it as Kevin Brown. You need to get that fixed. But Javon Leake fumbled. And that started the snowball effect. And I'm not blaming McLeod Bethel-Thompson for the late interception. I think it was tipped and all that. But it was that Javon Leake that was the big one.
They had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter.
And that's you're not going to win football games when you're doing that.
Yeah, that's on the defense, but 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter.
When I look at my key to an Elks victory today, it's establish Kevin Brown. It's going to be get that. And as we said, it's not necessarily specifically just the run. It's not specifically handing him the ball off. But even some dump passes to him into the flat. You get Kevin Brown the ball. To me, the number I like that 15 to 20 range.
Yeah, man,
that's the range I like. You get him involved with that. That should open things up a little bit more for McLeod Bethel-Thompson. He's got that quick release. Maybe it allows us that if the defense plays up, you get Eugene or Dylan Mitchell deep or something. Like you need Kevin Brown going so that you're not just a. And again, I know this is kind of speaking on both sides of the mouth, but. Just a pass team. I know I said dump it to Kevin Brown, but like that, there's similarities to a run type there. You need to make the defense guess what's going to happen.
Sure.
And so to me, if the Elks are going to win today, we're going to need to be seeing Kevin Brown was involved. And as you said earlier too, it just takes that one play from Kevin Brown. It's all of a sudden 30 yards,
boom,
35
boom.
yards, and he'll have the stats. So have him involved. Establish Kevin Brown. That is my key to an Elks victory. Jay, let's start with the first prediction. There's 2 of us here. The first prediction comes from our server, Alex, where we gave the snaps to earlier. You asked for her prediction. She did take the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah.
And then you asked for a score, and she said it'll be a good one.
A good one.
And I love that. She had
So
this
we're holding her
blank
to that.
stare initially.
We're
She was
holding
just like,
her to that.
and she just went, "Oh, just a good one,"
It's
and
gonna
I
be a good
loved
one.
it. So well done to Alex. Your
I'm on
prediction.
record. I think the points are going to be put up tonight, 38-34 for your hometown Edmonton team.
With that, that'll wrap up today's edition of the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Jay and I will be on immediately following the game down at Commonwealth Stadium between the Elks and the Owls right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, as well as those watching on YouTube. So we'll be on all the channels today. Coming up next on our audio stream on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, we do have the Edmonton Stingers. They're in action down in Calgary against the Surge, looking to bounce back after a rough outing against, was it Niagara this past Sunday?
Niagara.
Rough outings. They've dropped their last two, but they're 4-2, I believe, on the season. They won their first game this season down in Calgary. We'll have that for you on the audio stream. A reminder, you can still come down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge to watch the game with Jay and myself tonight, but we'll be here all season long, so plan to come on out for one of the games as well. Enjoy the football game. Thanks for tuning in to the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. As I think I already said it, enjoy the game, but we'll talk to you once it's over with the Green and Gold post-game show. Bye now.